Hello, hello, hello. Welcome
Yeah.
to my lighthouse here on Print Island. My name is Richard Askam. I am the lighthouse keeper, as those of you who have watched the show before will now know. And you'll also know that I have the privilege and in fact, the joy of inviting pretty much whoever I want to join me in the lighthouse. And today is no exception. And I'm very pleased to welcome to Print Island for the first time, Joanne Gore. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Very excited to be invited to the island. I was born on an island, so now the island of Montreal. And
Okay.
so now we're
Oh,
back on an
I didn't
island.
know that was an island.
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
Well, there
It
you go.
is.
Learning number one in the next 30 minutes or so. Montreal is an island.
It
Well,
is.
wow. Do you know? There you go. Maybe I should have studied geography at school longer than I actually did, but I did not know that. So, well, welcome, an island born, as they say. So thank you and welcome. And Joanne, for anybody who's listening or watching this anywhere in the world, because we have viewers now all over the world. One or two of them, I can't imagine there's many, but one or two of them might not know who you are. So give me the 30-second flyby of Joanne Gore.
Sure. So I am Joanne Gore. I am the president and chief strategist at Joanne Gore Communications, which is a full service B2B marketing agency. And I'm on a personal mission to help the print industry sell more print. I started in the industry, went to school, was a graphic designer, worked as typesetter long before there were computers. I'm dating myself. Eventually, I was hired in to a software company as their print production manager, and I evolved into a B2B marketer. Spent 30 years in corporate tech as a marketer, and then got bounced around so many times. I say I'm such a great marketer. I marketed myself out of every job I've ever had through acquisitions and mergers and whatnot. And I eventually decided it's time to hang up my own shingle because I got tired of being bounced around. And Joanne Gore Communications version 2.0 was born, I'd say in about 2017. And we incorporated at the end of 2019, just months before COVID shut the world down. But as a virtual agency, we were ready. So for us, it was full steam ahead, and the rest, as I say, is history.
Indeed. History that's being written every day, which is wonderful. So thank you for that. And the good news is the first computers were in the 50s. So you're fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're well in. You're positively millennial in that regard. So that's
There
fine.
you go.
So tell me, and there seems to be a running thread, Joan, with everybody that I've spoken to really on Print Island has come into the print industry or been part of the industry because of a family connection. Do you have something in your history that links you to the industry, or were you just one of those renegades that went, I know, I've got a great idea? How did you find your way in?
As I said, I studied to be a graphic designer. So I think I mentioned I was born in Montreal. I live in Toronto now. But when it came time for me to go to Cégep, which is college, which is, I think, again, super smart the way they do it in Quebec, where you go to high school, but then you have sort of that bridge between high school and university. So, and it's still part of, we'll call it public education system. But you can either spend 2 years studying as you get ready for your degree that you're going to eventually go for in university,
Yep.
or you can do what's called a 3-year diploma program. So you graduate with your diploma and you're ready to go. So that's what I did. Loved, I'm a typography nerd. I love typography and typesetting, and that's what I did. I studied typing in high school, so everybody was always getting me to key in their projects into the typesetter, which, if you know anything about typesetting, I'm going back to the AM Very Typer days where you had to, you typeset everything. You were lucky if you even had a screen, a preview screen. Usually there was no preview screen to see what you were going to do. When all was done, you sort of, it's all done through in a dark room, right? So you hit the keys and it goes onto photographic paper, and you take it and you go into the dark room and you process it, and you keep your fingers crossed and pray that what you typed is what you get. But that that got me going. And then when I graduated, I was offered a job in Toronto to work for a printing company that had internal design, and typesetting and layout, which was, I'm like, all right, you're willing to offer me a job? I didn't know any better. I was 19. I'm like, sure, I'll move to Toronto. What do I know? What the heck? So I picked up, I moved to Toronto, and I've basically been here ever since, and spent about 8 or so years in the print industry. I worked for that company. I did a stint over at Quick Copy Printing, which I call like the fast food of the industry. Everybody should have to work fast food in their life, whether it's real fast food, which I
Agreed.
did as well, or business fast food. So, it teaches you a lot. So that's really how I got into the industry. And, I've run the odd press, you name it. I did it all. And even when I transitioned into sort of corporate software, some of the companies that I worked at were affiliated with the print industry. So I always kind of had like one foot in, one foot out.
Sure.
And the last company I worked at was Avanti, which is a print MIS. They were since acquired by Ricoh and then sold by Ricoh to I think EPS. It was either, I apologize, it's either EPS or EFI. I can't remember which one. But bottom line was Avanti was going to be the last place that I go. I was going to that was it. Again, they got acquired. And that's when I was like, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
But because I'd spent sort of the last 3 years of my corporate life working back in the print industry and reconnecting with everybody I knew, for me, it made so much sense to take everything that I've learned, apply that sort of corporate discipline, that corporate marketing background, and apply it to an industry that doesn't really get a lot of love like that. So that's kind of where it all started. And
Okay.
I work with software. Obviously, I work with a lot of software companies, manufacturers, and equipment, the OEM. So the whole food chain, because I've already did that in my corporate life. Now I'm just translating it to the print world.
And that's kind of a nice way around of doing it as well, isn't it? Because in order to understand what somebody needs, you also need to understand what somebody wants. And I guess if you've been in all of those chairs, I had this in my youth. My dad was in the drinks industry, and he, as part of my education, I didn't realize it at the time. I was very bitter about it at the time. As part of my education, I got to work in pretty much every area of the drinks industry, because his logic was at some point in your life, you're going to have to deal with them all. So in order to deal with people, you need to know what it is that they do. And that, so I think that round, it's almost like an MBA, isn't it? Before you've even got into the world of work. But do you think that whole approach has stood you in good stead really for what you do or have been doing for so successfully for the last few years? Because you understand what they need, right?
It's not even about understanding what they need. It's about knowing which questions to ask to figure out what they need. They a lot of times, folks will come to me and say, "Oh, we need a new website." And my answer to that is always why. Why do you need a new website? And I just keep like digging and peeling back those layers of the onion, because sometimes it's not the website that they need. It's that they need messaging, because they don't know what their story is. They don't know what the right call to action is. They don't know who the right audience is. So they're blaming it on the easy thing, which is the website. And when you take a deeper look, you figure out that there's usually something else. So yeah, I love to sort of dig in and really, really get to the nut of the why, and then help figure out, okay, so here's what the problem is. Here's what you want the solution to be. How do we get from point A to point B, as simply, with the least amount of friction, the least amount of cost, both in dollars and resources and time. And how do we make it all happen? And sometimes, the expression, how do you eat an elephant, is one bite at a time. So I take the same approach. I like to say, let's focus on what you need now, what you need next, and what you need later. And we always have a lens on what you need later, but that doesn't negate what you need now. So I really do try and structure things that way, knowing stuff changes, right? To be able to predict beyond 6 months these days, to me, is near impossible.
Yeah.
You can pretty much ink in the next 3 month window, and then the 3 months after that, like months or months 4, 5, and 6,
Yeah.
I like to say put the first 3 months, the now, in Sharpie. Like, it's done. It's not going to move. The next 3 months are in pen. You can like white it out, or you
Yeah.
can, it's a little clunky, but you can change it if you have to. But the rest is all in pencil.
Sure.
It's penciled in ideas. You have rough themes, rough ideas, but really anything can happen. But as long as you are always in a 3 month Sharpie period, and
Mm.
it doesn't matter. Month 4, you're still in a 3 month window. So
Yeah.
I find it makes it much easier to know what's coming next, um, and not lose sight of your ultimate destination.
Mm. Yeah, it makes sense. And apologies, by the way, for my dog who barked halfway through that
Oh,
wonderful
I did
explanation.
not hear.
Um, that's fine. I can only assume, because he's barking at the door of the lighthouse, I can only assume there's a storm coming.
Yeah.
That's what he's there for. So we'll take that as a weather warning. But apologies for that. But no, and you're absolutely right, of course. And in fact, you could almost, depending on your viewpoint and your experience in the world, that 3 months can become 6 weeks in the middle of that 3 month. There's so many ways that we can. What is it, micro and macro? The whole management of your business and your plans. And right now, and I guess this year more than any over the last few years, since COVID, I would say this has been the most difficult year to predict anything. And in many ways, the best thing to do is to not predict anything and just roll with the punches. Are you finding the same?
Yeah, this year was an extremely volatile year. I'd say particularly the last 6 months have just been, I'm seeing a lot of folks running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Like, they don't know what to do, and they're making snap decisions out of fear.
Mm.
And some of those decisions are coming back to bite them in the butt. And some of them are the right decisions. And, all I can really do is just help
Mm.
ask the right questions, and really it all comes back down to that focus of ultimately what is it you want to have happen, and how can we make that happen given everything that's going on or not going on.
Mm.
um, and it's not always a straight line. We try and make it a straight line, but sometimes you kind of have to go around the bend because there's construction, or there's an accident, or life happens.
Yeah.
So again, 80% of the time you should be set, and leave sort of 20% to whatever life throws at you.
Mm.
If you can set yourself up that things are running smoothly the majority of the time. It's the same thing like with food and diet and health.
Yeah. Yeah.
They say like 80% of the time focus on, getting your water in, and getting sleep, and getting some exercise, and making healthy choices. But that doesn't mean you can't have fun. And 20% of
Quite.
the time, have fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I kind of try and take the same approach to um, any kind of strategy or business. Like, yeah, we've got to get it set in stone, but we still have to have fun. We still have to have the opportunity to play and test and fail and learn,
Yep.
and and get more right than wrong, but look for wrong so that
Mm.
you can learn what's right. And
And
a lot of people have problems with that. I don't know about you, but yeah,
well, there's a certain. I mean, you must find this as a from an agency perspective. What you're describing is effectively institutionalized behavior, because so many people have been, it's ingrained in their very souls that they should be doing something, even though when they don't know what that something is, so they do something just in case they have done nothing. And this way lies madness. I heard a brilliant joke a few years ago, and it was to do with institutionalized behavior, and it was, why do you check your phone to see if you've got a message, which is the same as going to your front door to see if anybody's knocked.
Yeah.
It's madness, isn't it? So what you must see this all the time with business owners and your clients. We won't name names, obviously, but in terms of the fear of doing nothing forces them to do something which nothing would have been the best thing to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and also the fear of making a mistake. And sometimes, and that is a harder conversation to have. Is, for me, you're not a good marketer unless you make mistakes.
Mm.
Um, that's just part of the job. That's why you do A/B testing. Something's going to work and something's not going to work.
You just don't know which one.
You just don't know which one, and that's why you have to be prepared to make mistakes. And then here's the other thing. Sometimes you get it right, but you don't know why you got it right. And then you try and replicate it and you get it horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Why? Was it the right message to the wrong audience, the wrong message to the right audience, the
Yeah.
wrong message to, you don't know until
Yeah.
you start dissecting what went right and what went wrong, and hope that 3 weeks later or 6 weeks later or 3 months later, when you're trying to replicate that success, that something else hasn't shifted, like an algorithm or just, things in the world
The
suddenly
universe. Yeah.
shifting where
Yeah.
you can no longer say things that you were able to say 6 months ago. You can't say that now. So there's constantly external forces at play that you have to. Oh, I heard.
There's a big storm coming, clearly.
Oh, boy or girl?
Boy, noisy
Oh,
boy, and yeah,
oh.
boys are always noisy. I speak on behalf of my species, so yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're
Oh, I
you're
love it.
absolutely right, and it takes me back to a bit of advice that my dad gave me all those years ago, and I'm finding myself much more appreciative of his wisdom in the years after he's no longer with us than I ever was when he was here. But he often said to me, sometimes the best direction of travel is reverse. And we're not preordained to think that way. We've got to keep moving. Well, do you know what? Sometimes you need to reverse out of certain situations and just have a look and see where you are. And
Yeah.
it's easily said, of course, not that easy to do at the time because of all the commercial pressures around us. But I find it fascinating that you see it the same way. I guess that's what makes you good at what you do.
Thank you. You know, you talk about advice you got from your father. I have two pieces of advice that I received over the years from managers or people that I've worked with. One is opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, right?
Yep.
That's just
True.
as simple as that is. It's really important to realize that everybody's going to have an opinion. Every single person. So, you can't negate that. The other piece of advice I got was in relation to a conversation I was having around a particular strategy that a product manager wanted to employ, and I was like, I don't agree with it. Here's why. So my manager steps in and says to me, "You're right. You are dead right." Emphasis on dead. And I was like, what? And he's like, is this the hill you want to die on? Is this the hill you want your reputation to die on? Are you willing to sacrifice your job for this? And it's like, no, then let it go. So sometimes it's just recognizing, is it really, why? It all comes back to why.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it does.
I've
You're right.
learned a lot over
Well,
the
it's
years.
been a big year this year. Of course, you are now an award-winning Expo All-Star. So
Yes.
I tip
Oh,
my hat
thank you.
to you.
Thank
I mean,
you.
we had the guys on from Printing United in the Lighthouse earlier on in the week, Ford and Dave, and we were talking about the success of the All-Star program, really. And going back to what you were just saying about sometimes you do something and you don't know whether it was the right thing at the wrong time or what have you. That felt like the right thing at the right time. And it just, sometimes the simple things like getting a group of people together who kind of all knew each other but didn't sort of know each other really well, but were all leaning forward, that brings with it a team momentum just by doing it, doesn't it? And would you, your experience of that? You were obviously at the show. I mean, it was quite
It
a
was
thing.
one of the best shows that I've been to, and definitely the best show post COVID. To
Mm.
me, it definitely had that energy and that vibe, and everybody felt it. And it wasn't just it was everything. And I can't pinpoint what it was. And again, don't know if we could ever replicate it. We're certainly going to try. But I think um, one of the things that made the All Stars so successful, and again, this goes back to business, is first of all, they threw a bunch of A-type people at a project. Didn't really give us much direction or guardrails, or we just kind of all figured it out. But that was the beauty of it. Everybody did it. We all just worked our own way. It wasn't, well, this one's doing this, so I have to do what they're doing. No, this is how I do it. This is how Alicia does it. This is how Chris does it. But it all worked. And again, that's a lesson learned, is sometimes let the people that you are entrusting with a task or a job or a project do that task or job or project. You don't need to come in and micromanage every little thing, or just sometimes you have to have trust in the people that you've hired or brought into a project, because you did it for a reason. So if you trusted them enough to bring them in, trust them enough to do the job. And that's another, especially in these tumultuous times, I think the trust factor has really diminished, and there's less runway for that trust. You know this. Most projects, any new marketing program is going to take at least 3 months to really pick up steam, 6 months to start to see the fruits of your labor. If after 2 months you're like, I'm not saying anything, we have to change this, it's like, no, just please trust that we know what we're doing. And I don't know if you're seeing that, but I think that whole trust factor is really fractured right now. And that's just sad.
I think it's a combination of trust, definitely, confidence, absolutely. The world really, almost all of it at the moment, feels to be lacking in confidence to do or try anything, and it's quite unfortunate, isn't it, when you get in that negative mindset, because it's the classic glass half empty sort of feeling.
Yeah.
When you go to a show like Printing United, and suddenly you're surrounded by optimism, and it doesn't take long to switch. Suddenly the glass can be half full, like in a day. Your whole mindset changes. I think one of the joys, and it was such a shame I was unable to come to.
You were there in spirit with us.
I was there in spirit,
truly
absolutely.
there in spirit.
So, but what I saw, and it was quite interesting to be almost sort of detached from it, was the organic nature in which that group of people, the All Stars, sort of almost enabled the show to come alive, because it was an external validation. The trouble, when you get an organizer, any event, doesn't matter what it is, could be a village barbecue, it doesn't matter what it is, the organizer is always going to tell you it was the best barbecue ever, because that's what they do, it's their job. But when you have a bunch of external people that are sort of linked but not engaged or employed, then actually they'll give you the truth. And if that truth is a positive, then it rubs off really quickly on other people. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it was a great experiment. I know they're going to continue with it in 2026. We've got some plans for the All-Star Bar on Print Island as well. So you will always have a bar stool at the All-Star Bar. But I think it's going to be interesting how the rest of the industry responds to that sort of mechanic, because is it going to open up the world more to the external content creators? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting few years, isn't it?
It is. What I find even more fascinating is that we're not one and done. Like, we created a WhatsApp group for the All Stars, and we're still all chatting with each other and sharing pictures and, oh, what did you do this weekend? And it almost feels like, dare I say, camp. We were thrust into a situation where, granted, we weren't all like sleeping in one cabin, but we were all together for the majority of the time, and it worked. And that was the beauty. Like, you could not have planned it better. It just worked. And again, I'm not even sure why or how. And I truly hope we can recreate that genie in a bottle experience, because it really was amazing. I've had that experience only a couple of times in my professional career.
Mhm.
One very, very early on, that first company that I worked at. I'm still friends to a lot of those people to this day. And a lot of them have gone on to huge success and, multi-million, billion-dollar companies, but we're still all the same people that we didn't know what we were doing. We had no clue what we were doing, but we made it work.
Mm.
And we all just rolled up our sleeves and figured it out and made it work. And to me, that's that's what gets me excited. That's what keeps me doing what I do. I guess I'm one of those crazy people. I just love what I do. So,
No, that's
um,
good. That's a good thing, and I do think it's in our DNA to want to feel part of a tribe. We go back
yeah,
a long way in the mists of time to want to feel part of something, and it's very easy to say. I mean, everybody talks about community and everybody talks about collaborative and all all the magic words, but then you actually have to do the action of those things, not just talk about them. And
yeah,
it was very tangible and continues to be tangible. That when you do that and it works, then it can live forever in many ways and in many guises, because you were always part of that tribe. So I'm really looking forward to the effect that has, not just on that community, but also others that are looking to create similar communities. There's a
yeah.
method there, isn't there? There's madness in the method, or method in the madness. I'm not sure which one.
Yeah, whichever one you want to take. I think now also, I'm at a point in my life where I'm looking back more than I'm looking ahead. And it's really given me the opportunity, to see the forest from the trees and
Mm.
hopefully help others. Everyone's going to make mistakes. It doesn't mean you're going to get it perfect, but if there are warning signs, or if there's things that I can help somebody recognize, like, oh, when you see this, this is what's coming next,
Yes.
that that's sort of the stage I'm at now, where I want to give back, and that's why I'm so passionate about helping the print industry, because
Mm.
it was very, very, very good to me early in my career, and even throughout my career. I just want to give back. It's one of the reasons I wrote my book
Mm.
a couple of years ago. In fact, there's one chapter literally titled "Opinions Are Like Assholes. Everybody has one,"
There
because
you go.
I
You've read it here
literally
first.
took every lesson that I learned from how to, when someone from HR is walking down the halls with a manila envelope, instantly I know what that means. And
Yeah.
some people are going to be like, what does it mean? And
Yeah. Yeah.
you made that face. I know you know what it means.
Oh, well, I know what the color of envelope means. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So.
Yeah. So, shit's going to happen.
Mm.
And so
Which
if
is
you
what,
can,
maybe that's why it's that color, because shit's going to
maybe.
happen. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe. But again, if you can sort of see the warning signs, and more importantly, what do you do once,
Mm.
if this is a reality in your life? There's going to be a bunch of layoffs, or there's going to be a restructuring, or someone's going to get fired, or somebody's going to get
Yeah.
hired, or something's going to happen. You get paralyzed. There's no worse feeling than losing your job,
Yeah.
especially when you don't deserve it and you're
Mm.
just a number on a page, or
Mm.
you're a victim of circumstance. And
Yeah.
sadly, I've lived through that more times than some people have changed socks. But with that comes, the experience and mindset of, okay, here we go again. And
Well,
how do you move? Yeah.
it's what some people refer to as age, we refer to as wisdom. So which is absolutely fine. I can live with that. So and
Yeah.
I genuinely appreciate the fact that you are reflecting really on the time that you spent in the industry. But I'm going to force you now to look forward, because
Hmm.
we've reached that time of the year where everybody makes their predictions for the
Yep.
following year. I don't know why, because Tuesday becomes Wednesday. It's the same kind of thing, but somehow it's got an attached importance. So I'm gonna live with that convention and ask you, Joanne Gore, to predict for me what you think 2026 is going to bring for you, but also for the wider industry?
I think we're still going to see a lot of conversations around AI. However, I think we're also starting to recognize that it's not all sunshine and roses. And the whole conversation around AI slop, I don't know if you've heard that term. It's a term that I've been seeing a lot more of. It's like that whole garbage in, garbage out. It's, you can tell when something's written by AI. So,
I see.
yes,
Right. Yeah.
AI's given you the power to create 5 blogs in 5 minutes. But is that something you really want to like put your name on? So really understanding the role of AI and what the limitations are, and not, coming back to this trust. You can't put blind trust and faith in something that hallucinates, that gets things wrong. You wouldn't, so I think there's going to be a lot of, we talked about culling the herd. I think there's going to be a lot of that really starting to synthesize into best practices and do's and don'ts, and even the conversation around automation and workflow has been around for like at least 15, 20 plus years. People have been talking about it. Now it's percolated to the top again because people are equating AI with automation. So again, it's a lot of these, it's the new shiny object. Remember when crypto was the shiny new object. When
I can remember when the internet was the new shiny object. That's how old I am.
When the internet was the shiny. I remember when a fax machine was the shiny new object. But everything disrupted, and the sky is falling, and everyone's going to be out of a job. And I had somebody come to me and say, AI is going to put you out of a job. And I'm like, well, why would you say that? Well, because AI can create all of this content. AI can create our messaging playbooks for us. I'm like, oh, really? All right. I would love, please have it do it. Share it with me. I would love to see it, because if it can do what the human can do, I will hang up my shingle, or hang up my hat, or close my doors, or whatever. But it can't, because it's not a human. It doesn't have the stories that we have in us to draw from. So you still have to feed it what matters most to distinguish you from your competition. You can't just say, oh, I'm a label and packaging printer in New York City, and I want to go after the luxury brand market, write my messaging playbook. And that's what people are doing. So I just think 26 will be a lot of that realignment. I think we're going to see a lot, unfortunately, fewer dollars being spent on marketing, which is going to put a lot more pressure on sales teams. And as we all know, in our industry, we are a more experienced group of individuals, and some of the sales folks may not know how to use some of the tools. Even it's as simple as, social media, which again, I still can't believe I have to have that argument with people as to why they need to be on social media. But I really think that AI, automation, labels and packaging is still going to be big in our industry for a whole bunch of reasons. I think we're going to see a lot more web to print sites come up. I think they're finally starting to get it, that you need an online storefront of some sort, because people want to be able to self-serve. So I think we're going to start to see that in 26 and 27, a lot more of what should have happened 5 years ago. But that's just finally starting to happen now. but I think that 26 is still going to be a tough year. It's going to be a
Mm.
rough and tough year, I think, for a lot of folks globally, not just in Canada where I am, not just in the States, not just, over in UK. I think everybody is feeling
Mm.
a lot of pressure. And it's impacting people mentally, physically, and emotionally. And
Yeah, no,
it's
I agree.
it's weaving its way into the business decisions that are being made.
Mm.
And like I said, a lot of decisions are being made out of fear. A lot of decisions are being made because the business has shrunk, and companies are trying to figure out how to sort of reinvent themselves, or where's the money going to come from.
Mm.
Again, that comes, it sounds trite. My big thing is know who you help, how you help, and why it matters. If you can't answer those questions, you're wasting your time, you're wasting
Yeah.
your dollars, you're wasting your resources. So get to the nut of those answers. And even they might not be the same answers as they were last year or 5 years ago. And that's okay. Realign and figure out, where am I going to make the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time from the most amount of people. What does that look like? And let's go do it.
Yeah.
Forget about the rest. Yes, nobody wants to say no to business, but don't focus on getting the business that you should be saying no to. Focus on the
Sure.
business you should be saying yes to, and get
Yeah.
more of that. Then you can sort of, once you've kind of got that going, then go after that next cohort or that next group. That's the only way to eat the elephant. So I don't know
It is.
even if I answered your question at
No,
this
you
point,
did beautifully. Beautifully and eloquently as always. And it's food for thought, Joanne, because and this is one of the reasons that we created Print Island, was to talk about the print industry as it is, not how the brochure would have us believe, or the past used to tell us, or the impossible future, and yet just as it is. And so I genuinely appreciate the honesty. And that's kind of what we're here for, is to have these conversations, because I can guarantee you there will be people watching this all around the world going, oh, that's me too. And somehow that feeling of camaraderie and companionship, if you like, shared problems, makes it feel a little bit easier to deal with. And in many ways, that's kind of what we wanted to create when we brought Print Island together in the first place. So you've done a brilliant job, as always, of doing that. So and tell me, what's your plans for Christmas? Do you have big holiday plans? What's going on in your world?
Oh, not really. I think my plans are to just relax and catch up, and just
Sleep.
sometimes you need to do nothing
Yeah.
to be inspired.
Yeah.
And that's when the best ideas come. Not when you're trying to think of what to do next,
I agree.
but more like when you're trying to figure out what to make for dinner.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, my team, by the way, I love my team. They love me. I know I drive them crazy sometimes, because I'll have these like wacky ideas, and then I'll just fire it off, and they're like, oh, here she goes again. But some of them come to fruition, and some of them just get parked in the idea bank, and they might become a blog or an article or a post. But yeah, no, it's. I think I'm just going to take it easy this
I
year,
think you're very wise.
and take a few days off. Christmas Day, we get Boxing Day as well here. And again, a lot of our business comes from the US, so I have to be cognizant of the fact this is their Christmas this week. Thanksgiving is their big holiday, so most are gone already. I can just tell by my inbox, by what's going on. Like, people are like checking out, which, by the way, when people are checking out, that is the best time to be putting stuff on LinkedIn. Because when people check out on business, where do they go? Oh, I haven't been on LinkedIn in a while. Let's see what's going on. And it seems silly, but that's what happens. You go to your socials when you're on your downtime. So doesn't mean you go and sell, but it means you catch up.
You absorb.
Engage. And yeah.
I like that.
What are
I'm going to
you
leave
doing
you.
over the holidays?
Well, we're family. Like everybody, I'm very lucky where I live. All of my family live within 3 miles of
No.
each other, so we don't have to travel to find each other, which is great. So yeah, we've got, I think there's 18 of us for Christmas lunch, something like that.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
we always have a lot of fun. So, but a bit like you said, take that time to just sort of relax a little bit. As you say, ideas don't come when you're asked for one. I'm going to leave you with one of my father's favourite expressions. It seems to have been an homage to him today, so I'll apologise to you for that. But
No,
he
don't
always used to
apologize.
say to me, doing nothing sometimes is something.
Yes.
And I like that. So we're
Yes.
on that basis. Our advice from myself and from Joanne Gore here in the Lighthouse on Print Island is take some time and reflect and relax, and also look at your LinkedIn, because this will be on there. So come and find us on Print Island. Joanne, thanks so much for taking the time to join me today. Apologies again for my storm chasing dog. But
I've got one
I'll
in the background too. Hold on.
okay.
Let's see if
Oh
we can
yeah.
find him
Is
sleeping
that,
there in the background there.
that's nice.
But
Sleeping would be good. Yeah,
he's
taking your
passed
advice
out.
literally. So, and it's lovely to see you. Look forward to bumping into you somewhere in person in 2026. But in the meantime, thank you for joining me, and have a very
Thank you,
peaceful Christmas
Richard.
and a happy
Thank
New Year.
you.
All
Happy
right.
Happy Christmas.
Thank you.